3:12 a.m. local time, Northern Arabian Sea. Inside the Combat Information Center of a U.S. Navy supercarrier, the night watch moves in near silence. Radar screens cast a soft green glow across the dark room. Operators monitor merchant vessels, escort ships, and distant contacts scattered across a calm stretch of ocean that runs for hundreds of miles in every direction. Then the sonar console gives a single chirp. A petty officer leans closer. Another tone follows, sharper this time. The sonar technician goes still for half a second before speaking. Possible transient. Heads turn across the room. The supervisor steps in behind the console as a waveform scrolls across the display. Short, violent spikes buried deep in the ocean's background noise. Then another, and another. The technician's voice cuts through the CIC. 2 transient signatures. For a brief moment, nobody says a word, because everyone in that room knows exactly what it means. Something has just been launched underwater. A second later, the system begins calculating speed and bearing. The numbers flash onto the tactical display. Speed above 50 knots, course converging. One officer says it quietly, torpedoes. The captain does not wait for confirmation. Sound general quarters. The carrier explodes into motion. Alarms echo through the passageways. General quarters, general quarters. All hands man your battle stations. Across the carrier's 330-meter flight deck, sailors rush for ladders and hatches. Deep inside the hull, watertight doors slam shut. Weapons crews move to their consoles as the massive ship shifts from routine patrol to full combat readiness in seconds. Back in the CIC, the tactical picture grows clearer. 2 torpedo tracks cut across the screen. Distance, 6 nautical miles. Closing fast. Time to intercept, under 7 minutes. One officer leans toward the captain. Bearing 093. Another voice cuts in. Second track bearing 147. The room falls quiet again. Different bearings, different launch points, which can mean only one thing. 2 submarines. Someone has just set a crossfire trap for the most valuable ship in the strike group. The escort destroyers begin to move. On the radar screen, 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers break away from the formation. Their engines push them to flank speed as they carve wide arcs around the carrier. Sonar systems switch to active mode. Moments later, the sea erupts with the deep metallic pulse of sonar pings rolling through the water. Above the carrier, a Seahawk helicopter crew, already strapped in, receives the launch order. The rotors begin to spin. Within 60 seconds, the MH-60R lifts off the deck and disappears into the darkness, heading straight toward the suspected submarine positions. Inside the CIC, the torpedo tracks continue updating. 5 miles, 4.2. The carrier itself begins a slow turn, its massive rudders biting into the sea as the helm tries to angle the ship away from the incoming threat. But a nuclear supercarrier displacing more than 100,000 tons cannot turn quickly. Not against a torpedo sprinting underwater at extreme speed. Deploy Nixie decoys, the captain orders. Far behind the carrier, cables spool into the water. The A/SLQ 25 Nixie countermeasure system drops beneath the surface, broadcasting powerful acoustic signals meant to pull the torpedoes away from the ship. A moment later, the first track wavers. Its guidance system is searching, but the second torpedo stays on course, steady, locked. 3 nautical miles. An officer studies the sonar display. Recommend evasive maneuver. The captain watches the screen for half a second. Maintain turn. Keep the decoys active. No panic, no shouting, only disciplined movement. This is exactly what the crew is trained for. Still, the numbers keep shrinking. 2.5 nautical miles. 2. Above them, the Seahawk's dipping sonar finally catches something, a sharp metallic return. Then the unmistakable rhythm of diesel-electric propellers. The sensor operator calls it out. Subsurface contact confirmed. The data streams back to the carrier instantly. Acoustic comparison begins. Within seconds, the classification appears on the main display. Kilo-class submarine, Iranian Navy. And there is not just one. A second sonar buoy lights up 20 miles away. Another submarine. Now the trap becomes clear. 2 Iranian attack submarines positioned on opposite sides of the strike group had been waiting silently beneath the thermocline, and now their torpedoes are already racing through the water. Inside the CIC, the countdown continues. 2 nautical miles, 1.8. The sonar technician stares at the screen, then says something that makes every officer in the room look up. They're switching to terminal guidance. That means the torpedoes have stopped searching. They have selected their target, and now they are running straight for the carrier. 15 minutes earlier, 400 feet below the surface of the Arabian Sea, the ocean is completely black. Inside an Iranian Kilo-class attack submarine, the air carries the faint smell of diesel fuel and machine oil. Red lights wash over the narrow control room where a dozen sailors sit silently at their stations. The submarine is running on battery power. No engine noise, no unnecessary movement. Only the slow turn of the propeller pushing thousands of tons of steel through the dark water at 3 knots. The sonar operator raises a hand. Surface contacts detected. On the display, multiple acoustic signatures appear. Large, slow, layered. Exactly what the crew has been waiting for. The officer of the watch leans closer. Carrier group. Even through the noise of the ocean, the signature is unmistakable. A nuclear supercarrier creates a sound profile unlike anything else at sea. Cooling pumps, turbines, auxiliary systems, hundreds of mechanical rhythms blending into one deep industrial heartbeat. Around it move the escorts, destroyers, and cruisers, holding a protective ring. The Iranian submarine commander studies the sonar display. Distance, 18 nautical miles. Perfect. He glances at the navigation plot. His submarine is positioned directly ahead of the carrier's projected course, hidden beneath a temperature layer that bends sonar waves and helps conceal his position. But the true strength of the trap lies elsewhere. 20 miles to the west, a second Iranian submarine waits in silence. Another Kilo-class boat, another crew holding its breath beneath the sea. The 2 submarines have spent nearly 6 hours drifting into place. No transmissions, no radar, no periscope exposure, only passive sonar and patience. Because their entire plan depends on one thing above all else: timing. The commander raises a finger. Confirm target classification. The sonar operator nods. Multiple escorts. One large acoustic signature consistent with a U.S. supercarrier. The commander says nothing for several seconds. Then he gives the order quietly. Prepare tube 1. In the torpedo compartment, sailors move fast. Hydraulic clamps release. A massive 533mm heavyweight torpedo slides into position inside the launch tube. The weapon weighs nearly 2 tons, guided by sonar designed to hunt the loudest ship in the ocean. The torpedo technician locks the tube door, tube 1 ready. Back in the control room, the submarine adjusts course slightly, aligning the launch angle. The carrier group continues closing in, 14 nautical miles. Inside the submarine, the only sounds are the quiet hum of electronics and the faint creak of pressure pressing against the hull. The commander slowly raises the periscope for a brief look, just a quick check. Above, the ocean surface shows nothing but darkness, with faint moonlight reflecting off long rolling waves. The radar warning receiver remains silent. The American ships still haven't detected him. The periscope lowers. The commander turns toward the fire control officer. Target solution. The computer completes its calculations. Speed, bearing, lead angle. Everything aligns with precision. The officer announces calmly, solution stable. At almost the exact same moment, far to the west, the second submarine is running the same calculations. 2 crews, 2 torpedoes, 2 attack directions. If both weapons arrive at nearly the same moment, the carrier's defenses will be forced to split their focus. That is the entire strategy. Overload the reaction time. The Iranian commander places his hand on the launch console. Fire 1. Compressed air erupts inside the launch tube. A violent burst of pressure drives the torpedo forward. The weapon shoots out of the submarine and into the ocean, its propeller activating seconds later as the guidance system locks onto the carrier's acoustic signature. On the sonar display, the weapon disappears into the darkness. Weapon running. 30 seconds later, hundreds of meters away, the second submarine fires. Another torpedo enters the water. Now 2 weapons race silently beneath the waves, their engines accelerating toward full speed. Inside the submarines, the crews listen as the distant hum of the torpedoes fades into the ocean. The commander allows himself a small nod. If everything works exactly as planned, the torpedoes will reach the carrier within minutes. And by the time the Americans fully understand what is happening, the situation will already be unfolding too quickly to stop. What neither submarine crew realizes is that several hours earlier, high above the ocean, another aircraft had already changed the entire situation. A U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft had flown a slow, methodical grid across this exact stretch of water. From its belly, the aircraft released more than 100 sonar buoys, forming a massive acoustic net beneath the waves. Each buoy listening, each buoy recording. And one of them had already picked up the quiet signature of a diesel-electric submarine drifting silently through the darkness. Back inside the carrier strike group, computers had been studying that data all night, tracking, analyzing, waiting. So when the torpedoes finally entered the water, the U.S. Navy already had a very clear idea of where the hunters were hiding. 3:15 a.m. local time. 3 minutes after the torpedoes entered the water, the entire carrier strike group shifts from defense to pursuit. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display now shows two separate battles unfolding at the same time. One above the water, one beneath it. The torpedo tracks are still racing toward the carrier, but the focus inside the room has already begun to shift. Because the moment a submarine launches a weapon, it reveals something extremely valuable: position. Mark launch bearing, the tactical officer orders. Two thin lines extend outward from the torpedo tracks on the display, stretching back across the ocean. Each line points toward the location where the weapons must have originated. Two sectors, two submarines, two targets. The captain does not hesitate. Begin anti-submarine engagement. Out on the dark ocean, the carrier's escort destroyers respond instantly. The first Arleigh Burke-class destroyer banks sharply to port, its bow slicing through black water as it accelerates toward the eastern launch bearing. Another destroyer swings wide to the south. Both ships activate their AN/SQS-53C hull-mounted sonar systems. A moment later, the ocean fills with sound. The first active sonar pulse blasts outward, a deep metallic tone spreading through miles of water like an expanding shockwave. Seconds later, the echo returns. A sonar operator aboard the destroyer leans toward his screen. There it is. A shape appears. Distance, 12 nautical miles. Depth, roughly 400 feet. Speed, minimal, exactly where the launch bearing predicted. Submarine contact classified, the operator announces. Back aboard the carrier, the information streams directly into the CIC. A track number appears on the display. Hostile confirmed. Above the ocean, the MH-60R Seahawk helicopter races toward the same location. Inside the aircraft, the sensor operator releases the first sonobuoy into the sea. The small floating device splashes down and immediately begins transmitting acoustic data back to the helicopter. A second buoy follows, then a third. Within minutes, the helicopter has created a small detection grid over the suspected submarine position. The operator activates the dipping sonar. A long cable unspools from the aircraft, lowering a sonar dome deep beneath the surface. The ocean fills with another sequence of pulses. Ping, ping, ping. Then the operator hears it. A low mechanical rhythm hidden beneath the background noise. Propeller blades. Slow, heavy, diesel-electric. The operator calls it out. Submarine contact confirmed. Back on the carrier, the tactical display updates again. Iranian Kilo-class submarine. Range closing. Meanwhile, the battle against the torpedoes is still unfolding. On the tactical display, the two torpedo tracks begin to behave very differently. The first torpedo slowly drifts off course. The Nixie acoustic decoy trailing behind the carrier is doing exactly what it was designed to do, broadcasting a stronger acoustic signal than the ship itself. The torpedo's guidance system reacts. The weapon turns slightly. Now it is chasing the decoy, but the second torpedo behaves differently. It ignores the decoy entirely. Second weapon still tracking the carrier, the sonar operator reports. Distance, 2 nautical miles. Speed unchanged. The captain glances toward the helm. Maintain turn. The carrier's massive rudders continue forcing the enormous ship into a gradual arc through the water. Every degree of change matters, but the torpedo keeps coming. Above the ocean, the Seahawk helicopter receives a new instruction. Engage submarine. Inside the helicopter, the pilots exchange a quick glance. The aircraft banks sharply toward the sonar contact. Far below them, the submarine moves slowly beneath the thermocline, its crew unaware that their position has already been discovered. The sensor operator marks the coordinates. Contact holding depth, bearing steady. The pilot steadies the aircraft over the area. Beside him, the weapons officer reaches for the control panel. Mounted beneath the Seahawk's fuselage are 2 Mark 54 lightweight torpedoes, built specifically to track submarines underwater. Fast, maneuverable, and extremely precise. But before the helicopter begins its attack, another voice cuts through the radio from the carrier. Torpedo closing fast. Back inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, the tactical display flashes red. The second torpedo is now less than 1 mile away, and it is still locked onto the carrier. The sonar technician watches the screen carefully. When he speaks again, his voice drops slightly, weapon switching modes. The captain looks up. What kind of mode? The technician swallows. Terminal homing, which means the torpedo has stopped searching. It has identified its target and is now driving straight toward the carrier at full speed. 3:17 a.m. Inside the Combat Information Center, every screen is now focused on a single red track moving across the tactical display. Second torpedo. Distance, 1,000 yards. Closing. The sonar technician calls out the numbers as they update. Range decreasing, 800 yards. No one speaks. The carrier is already turning, but a nuclear supercarrier weighing more than 100,000 tons cannot maneuver like a destroyer. Every second counts. Up on the bridge, the officer of the deck grips the rail as the helmsman maintains the turn. Maintain rudder, the captain orders calmly. Below the waterline, the massive rudders push deeper into the sea, forcing the ship's bow slowly away from the torpedo's path. But the weapon adjusts as well. Inside its guidance system, the torpedo's sonar listens for the loudest mechanical signature in the water. And nothing in the ocean is louder than a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Back in CIC, the sonar technician keeps his eyes locked on the display. 600 yards. The tactical officer leans forward. Decoy status active. Nixie broadcasting. Far behind the carrier, the A/SLQ-25. Nixie countermeasure trails through the water on a long steel cable. The small acoustic device emits powerful sonar pulses designed to mimic the sound signature of the ship itself. To the torpedo's guidance system, it should sound like the perfect target. But the weapon hasn't committed yet. 500 yards. The room remains silent except for the steady stream of reports. Outside, the ocean is still dark and calm. No explosions, no visible sign of the deadly race happening beneath the waves. On the tactical screen, the torpedo track begins to shift slightly. The sonar technician narrows his eyes, weapon oscillating. The captain immediately understands. The torpedo's seeker head is deciding, carrier or decoy. Behind the ship, the Nixie countermeasure continues transmitting stronger and stronger acoustic pulses, trying to pull the weapon away. 400 yards. For a fraction of a second, the torpedo hesitates. Then the red track begins to drift, just a few degrees, but enough. The sonar technician speaks again. Weapon turning. The torpedo changes, heading slowly at first, then more decisively. Now it begins following the Nixie decoy, trailing behind the carrier. Inside CIC, a few officers exchange brief glances, but no one celebrates yet. Torpedoes can still correct their course. 300 yards. The torpedo accelerates slightly as it commits to the new acoustic target. Now the distance between the weapon and the carrier begins to grow, but the decoy remains dangerously close. Behind the carrier, sailors at the Nixie control station monitor the cable tension. The small device is now the torpedo's only target. Then it happens. A violent underwater blast erupts several hundred yards behind the carrier. The explosion sends a powerful shock wave through the sea. The massive ship shudders slightly as the pressure wave rolls beneath the hull. Inside the CIC, lights flicker for a fraction of a second. The tactical display flashes, then stabilizes. Explosion detected. Range astern, 600 yards. The captain looks toward the sonar console. Confirmed decoy impact. The technician studies the acoustic returns. On the display, a plume of bubbles spreads through the water where the torpedo detonated. The Nixie signal disappears. He nods. Torpedo neutralized. Decoy destroyed. A quiet breath moves through the room. The carrier has survived the attack. But the situation is far from over, because somewhere beneath the surface, the submarine that launched the weapon is still out there. Above the ocean, the MH-60R Seahawk continues circling over the sonar contact detected minutes earlier. Inside the helicopter, the sensor operator studies the acoustic feed from the dipping sonar. The submarine hasn't moved much, still slow, still deep. The pilot glances at the weapons panel. Target holding? Affirmative, the operator replies. Back in the carrier's CIC, the tactical officer sends the final instruction. Helicopter, you are cleared to engage. Inside the Seahawk, the weapons officer flips open a safety cover. His hand moves toward the torpedo release switch. Nearly 400 feet below the aircraft, the Iranian submarine continues moving slowly through the darkness. Its crew still believes the attack on the carrier is underway. They cannot see the carrier. They cannot see the destroyers closing in from two directions. And they cannot hear the helicopter hovering directly above them. But the Seahawk crew can hear them perfectly. The sensor operator marks the submarine's exact position. Then he speaks 3 words into the intercom. Target acquired. 3:19 a.m. local time. High above the Arabian Sea, an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter moves in a slow, controlled orbit. Its rotors beat steadily through the dark sky, while the ocean below appears calm and almost empty. But the crew inside the aircraft knows exactly what is beneath them. 400 feet below the surface, an Iranian Kilo-class attack submarine is moving slowly through the water, still unaware it has already been located. Inside the Seahawk, the sensor operator studies the sonar feed streaming from the dipping sonar cable suspended beneath the aircraft. The acoustic image is clear, a long cylindrical hull, large propeller blades turning slowly, depth around 400 feet, speed barely 3 knots. The operator confirms again. Submarine contact stable. The pilot keeps the helicopter steady while the weapons officer prepares the payload. Mounted beneath the Seahawk's fuselage is a Mark 54 lightweight torpedo, a weapon designed specifically for this kind of mission. Fast, highly maneuverable, and built to track submarines underwater. The weapons officer enters the final targeting data. Bearing, depth, estimated speed. The computer processes the information in seconds. Solution ready. Back inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, every console is now watching the same live feed from the helicopter. The captain gives the final authorization. Engage. Inside the Seahawk, the weapons officer presses the release. The torpedo drops cleanly from the helicopter and splashes into the ocean below. For a brief moment, the weapon floats on the surface. Then its engine ignites. The Mark 54 dives sharply beneath the waves, its guidance system activating as it begins searching for the submarine's acoustic signature. Underwater, the torpedo accelerates, 40 knots, then faster. Inside the Iranian submarine, the sonar operator suddenly stiffens. A new sound has appeared, high frequency, fast, closing. His voice cuts through the control room, torpedo in the water. The commander turns sharply toward the console. Bearing? The operator studies the display, above us. That answer makes the situation instantly clear. The Americans have found them. Emergency dive, the commander orders. Ballast tanks flood as the submarine angles downward, trying to slip deeper beneath the thermocline layer, where sonar becomes less effective. But the Mark 54 torpedo is already tracking the submarine's propeller noise. The weapon adjusts its course and closes rapidly. Inside the submarine, the crew begins deploying acoustic countermeasures. Small decoys designed to confuse incoming torpedoes. One ejects into the water, then another. The decoys begin broadcasting artificial propeller sounds in multiple directions. For a brief moment, the torpedo hesitates. Its seeker scans between the different signals. Then it decides. The real submarine is louder. The torpedo commits. Closing distance, 200 meters. Inside the control room, the sonar operator's voice lowers. Impact imminent. The commander grips the edge of the console, and then the ocean erupts. A powerful underwater blast tears through the darkness. The shockwave slams into the submarine's hull. Inside the Seahawk cockpit, the sensor operator sees the result immediately on the sonar screen. A violent bloom of bubbles spreads outward, then silence. Explosion confirmed, he reports. Back on the carrier, the CIC receives the acoustic data. The tactical officer nods. First submarine neutralized. But the situation is not finished, because 20 miles away, the second Iranian submarine has already heard the explosion. Inside that submarine, the sonar operator reports the distant blast. The commander understands immediately. The ambush has failed. Now they are the ones being hunted. He orders maximum silent running. Engines drop to minimal power. The submarine attempts to slip away beneath the ocean's thermal layers. But an American destroyer, already closing in on their sector, has been listening the entire time. On the destroyer's deck, a launcher rotates into position. Inside the tube sits an anti-submarine rocket. The targeting data arrives from the carrier's tactical network. Coordinates locked, depth estimated. Fire. The rocket launches skyward with a burst of flame, streaking several miles before plunging back toward the ocean. Moments later, it strikes the water. The rocket casing splits apart. A second torpedo drops beneath the surface and activates immediately. The Iranian submarine begins maneuvering desperately, but the torpedo has already detected the acoustic trail of the propeller. 2 minutes later, the destroyer's sonar operator hears it. A deep underwater detonation. Then a second smaller burst as internal compartments collapse under pressure. Back in the carrier's CIC, the tactical display clears. Both submarine tracks disappear from the screen. Only the carrier strike group remains. The captain studies the display for a moment before speaking quietly. Log the engagement. The tactical officer enters the final report. 2 hostile submarines, both neutralized. Above the water, the Seahawk helicopter circles once more before turning back toward the carrier. On the distant horizon, the first light of dawn begins to spread across the ocean. The sea grows quiet again. No announcements, no headlines. Just another line in the strike group's combat log. 2 torpedoes fired, 2 submarines lost, carrier secure.